Hello, my fine friends. Welcome back to Destination Discourse. I'm your host, Stuart Butler, joined today with Adam, Martin, Stoker.
You
Is that
almost had it.
close?
You almost
Yeah.
had it. You were making progress. I do think this is a step backwards from your previous
Okay, so we
guess.
went from Matthew to Martin. Okay.
hmm
We're just doing
All right.
M names. Is that
Yeah.
the okay?
Yeah.
He's trying to guess my
Yeah.
middle name. He knows it's
I
an
love it.
M.
Yeah.
Mildred was 2 weeks ago, and I told him that that's a great way to make sure the shtick never ends. But he went with Mitchell. No, he went with
Matthew.
Matthew last time.
Matthew.
Oh, so
And
now I can't guess Mitchell because I know that's not one of them. Maybe that's your other brother's middle name. Oh, tip,
it is.
tip.
There we
It
go.
totally is.
All right. That's funny. All right. So it's a Matthew and it's a Mitchell. All right. We'll figure it out. But we're also joined today with Caleb Sullivan. What's your middle name, Caleb? Do you have one?
It is also an M name. Y'all
Ooh.
want to
Okay.
give it a first guess, or you just want me to
Well,
It's
here's
not
stop?
the thing.
Mildred.
One
Not
thing I will
Mildred.
say is if it's the same as Adams, he's not allowed to tell because otherwise you ruin this whole
Ooh.
shtick. And then I got to come
Yeah.
up with a different
Yeah.
intro. But yeah, go for it.
And it could be Adam's middle name because I think it would flow really well. So my middle
Is
name is Michael. So Caleb Michael Sullivan.
Ah,
Now I could
interesting.
see
oh,
Adam Michael
look at his little
Stoker
face.
being
I
Interesting.
think that's
very
what it
smooth.
is.
I think we hit it. I think we figured it out.
Look at
Adam,
his
did we figure it
face.
out?
We figured out yours for sure.
Oh,
So we're making
man.
progress somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to find out if this
Yeah.
really is. This is compelling listenership, guys. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I can't wait till we get to the shtick of me guessing Stuart's middle name, and I'm just going to come up with the wildest British names I can find.
Is
Stay
his
I
middle
will
tuned.
name
say
not
my
News?
my
Is it not Stu's News Butler?
Stu's News Butler. That's funny. My middle name is pretty British, I will say. Very, 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 very British.
Constable.
Yes, that well-known middle name, Constable.
Uh,
Oh man, I don't. This is late on a Friday, and I think we're all got a little case of the silly gooses today. But it's
Well,
all right.
absolutely.
You know what
Stuart,
else is
you
silly
have
though?
ruined my day. Can I tell you that? You've ruined my, and I'm
Okay.
sorry to interrupt your segue because you had a really good segue going
Yeah, I
there.
was. Yeah.
Um, you told me about Claude Cowork. We
Yeah.
recorded 3 hours ago
Yeah.
and we talked about
You've
Claude
done nothing
Cowork.
but that since, right?
Do you know how much I've gotten done in the last three
Yes.
hours?
Yes. It's insane.
It's insane. It's
It's
insane.
insane.
I installed the Chrome extension, which
Yeah.
obviously you have to if you're going to use it.
Yep. Yep.
And then I've just been giving it tasks, and I've been so productive in the last 3 hours. It's been
You're
amazing.
welcome.
Yeah,
That's great.
thank you.
That's a great payoff. Yeah. And if you get really, really kind of saucy with this, you can start using Claude Code as well. And that's gonna open your mind. I just had a conversation earlier today with Jeanette Roush at Brand USA, and she was showing a group of us how she's using Claude Code. And man, it's I've got to get into that too. So I think we're on the precipice of the new era of workflow. So go listen to last
Crazy.
week's episodes if you haven't heard my soapbox on Claude Cowork. All right, but as I was saying, we want to hear some silly. There's nothing
Here
sillier.
we go. Then seeing Caleb dance and listening to the
That's
song.
right. There's no sound, Adam. You
There's no
messed it up
sound,
again.
but I'm just dancing anyway.
No, no, that's
Mm-mm.
terrible. Okay, please
Every
hold.
time you
Here we
do that, a
go.
baby dies, just so you know. It's like this
What an
is
awful thing to
yeah.
say.
No, it's you're killing babies every time
No
you do that.
pressure. No pressure, Adam.
What'd you say? Hold on. What'd you say, Stuart?
I mean, you're killing babies. That's what's happening. Oh, you're trying to drown me out. Okay.
I kind of want to have clips of Caleb dancing to nothing. That's even better than him dancing to the jingle.
You like doing the airplane
It's
dance.
because I hear it in my head. Like, of course, I was listening to the show, today on my walk, as I always do. So I already heard it today, and I love it. So it's always in there. I dream the jingle.
You dream the
I
jingle.
love it.
That's I don't know if I'd tell too many people about that. All right, Adam, you said you were going to do Stu's News today. So
Yeah.
what is it?
Well, it's actually, I just wanted to let everybody in the industry know that there is a new podcast in the space if you haven't heard it. And I had the amazing opportunity to be a guest on that show. And they really said when they invited me to come on that show that we're going in order of importance in the industry. And I was like, "Oh man, so when did Stuart come on?" And they said, "Well, there's a few more people on the list before we get to Stuart." And I don't know that I totally agreed with them, but it was a great show, and I really appreciated the opportunity to be on.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that I we're
do you
getting
want to
there,
actually
Stuart.
tell the audience what the show was?
I'm kind
Kind
of
of, I
getting
feel
it
like that's kind of relevant.
out of the way it is now. So, Caleb, you should tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I host a travel and tourism podcast called "Give Me Some Good News," and it kind of just came out of these phone conversations I've been having with a friend of mine for a long time about the travel and tourism space and about destination marketing. And so we're like, hey, we should like record these and turn them into a podcast. But me being me, I was like nervous to do it. And then Adam, funny enough, actually gave, and I talked about this on the episode we did, but he gave me two pieces of advice that really stuck. And it all kind of boiled down to just like getting it done and like putting
Mhm.
yourself out there and trying. And so we're on Spotify because I can't figure anything else out. I'm still learning. It's so
I'll
it's
help
so
you, Caleb. I'll help you.
yeah, and I appreciate that. So if you guys want to listen, to Give Me Some Good News on Spotify, and it's a great time. We've had influencers on, we've had travel and
Oh,
tourism
wait, wait, wait.
people.
So Adam wasn't your first guest? Because he's
He was
been bragging
not
to
my first
everyone.
guest.
Okay. So he's not the
I
most
was
important
working
No,
up.
person
no.
I
in
was
this.
working up to Adam, and
Okay.
so we finally have like a system down, and it's just a really good time. But what we want to do is Destination Discourse is great for kind of uncovering what's needed in the industry. I would say it's a true safe space to discuss uh, value adds and thought provoking. What I want to do with our podcast is make it just a positive place to kind of share the good news that's happening in the industry, and that's kind of how we've spun it. So feel free to give it a listen, and we'd love to have you over there checking out the podcast.
So full disclosure, I haven't heard it yet, right? And I might not because I might have to boycott because you invited Adam before you invited me, and I'm going to be forever salty
Their
about
most
that.
recent episode is so good.
But what can you give the audience a little bit of a like a what are the kinds of good news, like examples of the
Yeah.
kinds of good news you're sharing?
Yeah, everything from someone's career growth and development and journey. So, kind of how to navigate growing your career in our space
Yeah.
to what is a really cool campaign that your DMO has run that you're proud of that you want to highlight.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
and so it really kind of runs the gambit. We try to leave it a little more open-ended so that way we can get different perspectives. Like we had Christina Riley, who's a North Carolina-based travel influencer on to kind of talk about what the influencer space looks like and how she worked with DMOs. And so it is a little more open-ended, but it's all about positivity. And you know, I've been told I'm a ray of sunshine, so I like bringing that to other people too. You know?
That's very true, Caleb. You are always smiling and always seem happy. Even when you have two young children and have sleep deprivation, you're still on
Oh
your A
yeah.
game.
Yeah,
It's
no
pretty cool.
sleep for this guy.
That's amazing. Tell us one more time what the name of the podcast is.
Yeah, it's Give Me Some Good News on Spotify.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing that. Still salty, but that's okay.
We'll get you on there, Stuart. You come on over anytime, buddy.
Oh, it's a boycott now. I'll come on your 100th episode. How about that?
Sounds good. Oh man, I've got a long
leave
way to
it
go.
leave it to Stuart to say, but if I do come on, it's only
Yeah,
going to be this crazy significant milestone
That's
because
right.
that's what I deserve, you
That's
know?
who I am,
that's
man.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. You do
Amazing.
deserve that, Stuart.
I mean, we all know that you just started the podcast to be able to get me on it. So, I'm just going
It's
to let you
true.
work for it for a little while. It's fine.
That's
Fine.
all right.
The level
Let
of
us earn
narcissism
your
is
yeah.
fantastic there.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
that's funny. Caleb, so you've been on the show a couple of times now. This
Yeah,
third time on the
this
show,
is the
maybe
third time.
fourth.
I
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
we're glad you're back. You're often in the comments on a lot of episodes. I think you're vying for top Desti
Desty.
spot
I am.
with Nate, right? And so
Yep.
I think we love everything you have to say. This one honestly surprised me a little bit when we asked you. You said you wanted to come back on and had a topic. I got to tell you, I wasn't expecting this topic. So you want to share your thesis a little bit and share with the destination what it is?
Yeah. So, I have worked in what I would call like the holy trinity of DMO land, right? So I've worked for a destination, for 4 years, a small destination here in North Carolina. I've also served in media sales, so during my time at Carvertise, and I've also worked in an agency. And so, because of this, I've had the opportunity to really see campaigns come to fruition. I've been able to work at a DMO to try my best to drum up demand. Um, and it's just kind of weird the way the world works sometimes. Sometimes the stars align perfectly and something falls in your lap that you just are like, man, this would be great to do for DMOs. And so what kicked it off was, I'm scrolling my feed the end of last year, and I keep seeing all these memes about like PTO maxing, right? Like how to turn X amount of days in PTO into like 45 or 50 days of PTO. And it all kind of came to a head when I saw a Forbes article that was titled Maximizing PTO in 2026: How to Turn 14 Days into 46 Vacation Days. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's not just a meme thing, if Forbes is actually posting about this, how can we as destination marketers turn this into true demand generation as a DMO? And so, um, for me, I was like, man, this is really neat. So I posted an article. So Kentucky, who's like a tour operator for millennials. If you've ever watched Wheel of Fortune, I know Stuart, you guys have been on Wheel. I'm a big Wheel watcher, and they actually have promoted Kentucky before. So anyway, that's how I knew who they were. Um, they actually posted a calendar on LinkedIn about this and actually had like the dates lined out. And so I shared it on LinkedIn. And I got a lot of traction from it and folks reaching out to me thinking it was a cool idea. Um, and it again just kind of got me thinking, like, what are DMOs doing? If we have Forbes writing about this, if we have different like HR and like memes, coming out from businesses on Instagram about this, how are DMOs kind of harnessing this golden opportunity that the universe has given us to truly generate demand in 2026? And so I truly believe with all of this, we're kind of entering this year of PTO optimization, right? Um, Travelers are really they're trying to figure out where to go and how to maximize that time off. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us to feed to that demand, and actually turn it into heads and beds, for our destination. So, yeah, it's a golden opportunity that the universe kind of gave us here. And with all the wild things going on in the travel landscape, we might have a layup here.
All right, so let me ask you this because I haven't read the original article, but can you give it as an insight into what are the kind of things they're suggesting you do in order to turn the 16 days into 46 or whatever it was?
Yes. So the way that they're suggesting it is, um, and unfortunately, we're recording this in March. It's probably got a little later, but take President's Day, for example. Like, say you have
Mm-hmm.
President's Day off, taking that Friday off and going through a long weekend. Things like Juneteenth, things like 4th of July. So
Got it.
the way that a lot of these holidays have lined up this year that aren't even based on specific days of the week, they've kind of lined up on like weekend bookend days. So like maybe you take an
Mm-hmm.
extra Monday and the holidays on a Tuesday or Thursday to
Mm-hmm.
Friday. So that's kind of how it's being positioned.
Got it. So strategic placement based on days you're already having off. So like you
Hmm.
take 2 days off on a long weekend and now you've essentially got a 5 day vacation is what it's
Hmm.
suggesting. Okay, that's interesting. So, what is your sort of prescription for folks, like how to capitalize on this? Do you think we should be writing similar articles to say, like, to tailor it to our destination? Hey, turn your PTO into a 5 day, 2 days of vacation into 5 days in Myrtle Beach, or is it
Yep.
more, hey, we know you're going to be traveling more. Let's just target those time frames more. Like, how do
Yeah.
we actually put this into action?
It's kind of a combination of both. So the way I look at it is you've got this time. How do we turn that into actual demand generation? So the way I kind of look at this is, let's kind of pitch this as, first of all, I'm going to take a couple of steps back. When I think about my time at the DMO, one of the key pillars we were always trying to focus on was our shoulder season, right? And so
Hmm.
we were constantly we coined it, and I think it is still coined here in Jackson County, our secret season, right? Like, it's a great time to visit, rates are lower, things like that. And so we'd always push
Hmm.
that kind of potential demand generation. what we have here now, in my opinion, is a true micro-seasonality opportunity, is what I'm calling it. So we can actually take this time frame and drive it as its own campaign. And so, um, obviously, we're always trying to kind of look at, off-peak travel windows and growing that. Well, how about we capitalize on these additional days in a creative way? So I think from the DMO's perspective, um, you, we some DMOs have events and some don't. And some destinations have events that happen, that drive demand no matter what. So how can we actually capitalize on these timeframes in similar ways and turn it into an event that you wouldn't want to miss? So could it be, we in previous episodes have talked about Las Vegas and how they try to drive demand by, giving like rate discounts and things like that. But what can we do as DMOs is kind of the question. Like I'm trying to figure out, has anyone thought about this? Has anyone looked at this? And what are other people doing? And maybe just spark a conversation.
Hmm. Adam, you have any questions or take on this?
Well, first of all, these are the kinds of insights, Caleb, that I think are really critical for destinations to understand how to differentiate themselves a little bit. The challenge with it is you're not truly differentiating if if every destination can offer an answer for this PTO maxing. The difference is not everybody's going to recognize this insight. It's a lot like the 18 Summers campaign that we've talked about multiple
Yes.
times on this show, where you could have spent your 18 summers with your kids anywhere. You can be a good dad anywhere. However, Idaho capitalized on that creative insight that made it feel like that could only happen in Idaho, right? And I
Hmm.
think that we're dealing with a similar insight here. I can't say that I feel like it's going to be as impactful as the 18 Summers campaign was, but the opportunity, I think, for DMOs is when there's insights like this and you recognize a possible demand driver, which I think maximizing your PTO can absolutely be considered a demand driver, right? So the problem with that is if you say, take your long weekend in Myrtle Beach, well, that's not terribly unique. And so I would almost say the Forbes article is a great starting point for destinations to say, I want to give you some value, and the value I'm going to give you is a clear how-to of how to maximize your PTO opportunities. And then I'm going to connect that to here's how you can spend those 45 days in Myrtle Beach. And
Yep.
we've actually
Yep.
put together a plan, an itinerary of what you guys should do, what the events are that coordinate with these PTO days, and build a calendar that if you're going to maximize your PTO, here's how we're going to plan it for you in Myrtle Beach. And I think connecting the education from the insight and then connecting that to the experience that they're going to have, that's kind of the sweet spot where I think destinations could really capitalize on this opportunity.
Yeah, and Stuart, going back to your point of actual, like, what is the actual execution of this? I like the idea of using social media, possibly as more of an actual, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Using it more as a itinerary driver. So, hey, this is the best time to visit. This is the best way to visit. And using it more as like an itinerary as opposed to just being inspiration, inspiration, inspiration. So actually have a call to action of this is where you can visit on these days, maximizing your PTO this way. I think that's a great opportunity for DMOs right now.
It's hyper granular though. Like I'm gonna push back a little bit, right? Because
Sure.
we've been talking about how we want to have a little more discourse on this. So I'm sort of gonna play with this idea a little bit and see if I can prod it a little bit. So we recently were talking about certain deals and demand for certain deals in our destination. And you can see things crop up on search engines or on certain pages on our site where there's certain times of the year where people are looking for a specific deal, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like people are actually go to Google and say Black Friday deals for Myrtle Beach and stuff like that. Um, we've been working with a lot of our hotels over the years to create deals for certain holidays and certain things, and then we would push them out on social media or in a paid media. And over time, then we've sort of seen less and less traffic. So we sort of started reevaluating that and looking at, well, how is consumers actually thinking about this? There's very little traffic for people looking for things like President's Day's deals or Valentine's Day's hotel deals in Myrtle Beach and stuff like that. So we're sort of backing away from how we sort of frame and push deals. So my fear and what you're suggesting, the sort of first way you presented this is I'd be having to spend a lot of money to get awareness and attention around a very granular, targeted opportunity that is going to be irrelevant to maybe the vast majority of that audience that would get it, right? Because there's no insight I have to say, okay, Caleb is someone that specifically is doing this kind of tactic of PTO hacking, and therefore he's got a high propensity to want this kind of President's Day or Thanksgiving or whatever thing. So it's sort of like a needle in a haystack approach doing it that way, right? So that
Sure.
that would concern me. But what Adam just said about like sort of taking the concept of what Forbes is doing, and Forbes is using educational content to try to get attention, right? It's not actually selling someone, it's just trying to do something that's relevant, valuable in the helpful sense. So if we sort of put on our destination as a citizen of the world hat, then that kind of approach makes more sense because now I'm building relationships with people by providing them life advice or hacks or interesting content that ultimately is a soft sell to a hard sell. Because if Forbes actually sold vacations, right? They do this hook, which was, hey, here's a way to hack my PTO and get more vacation days. That's interesting. You got my attention. They read that, but then there's no call to action at the end. Whereas what a destination can do is actually fulfill on the promise. Hey, here's the education. You read it, people will go, oh yeah, I need to do that. Then you sort of deliver on and if you want to do that, here's a frictionless way to actually go transact and book and come
Yeah.
stay in Myrtle Beach. Does that
And I
make
think
sense?
that's key. Yeah, and what I'm pitching here is not necessarily lower rates, pitch out a deal.
No.
It's
Yeah.
it's more of like we have a time to actually, yeah, educate and have a
Yeah.
CTA. So I agree with what you're saying. Like I think that's the approach. So whether it's through social media content, blog post articles, however you're
Yeah.
pushing, whatever tactic you're using to push out that information, um, be pitching it in a way of like, hey, fun fact, this is the year of PTO. Here's how you can use
Hmm.
it, and oh, by the way, here's where you can do it in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably
The
have to think about how do I filter self-select, get people to
Mhm.
self-select into this, right? Because again, I think we're targeting needle in a haystack a little bit. Might be wrong there because I'm an old dude and I don't think like you millennials and younger do, but
You've got a
um,
point.
you know, yes, thank you. There it is. Um, but I don't see myself spending paid media to go fishing for these people. I'd rather throw a free hook out there, like in the form of content that's being pushed
Yeah.
out organically on
Hmm.
social, in seeing if I get bites, and then spending the time and energy on the backside to actually get them landed once they're hooked. You know?
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I,
And-
that's a joke for those that have listened to our previous episode. That's a little teaser for the episode that already happened. So I want to address this because Stuart, I think you're very correct on how you're thinking about this, especially as it relates to paid media. I would not run a paid media campaign
mhm.
saying, here's how to maximize your PTO. What I would do is provide educational content and put some continuous content out there. And then if I can get somebody to come, or even if I can have some creators come into town during one of those extra long weekends or whatever, now how do I get them to tease what's happening in these other long weekends that are coming later in the year, so that if somebody
Hmm.
has been engaged with that content, we're kind of bringing them along throughout the year, where maybe if they didn't come at the beginning of the year, maybe they plan a trip for one of these other long weekends that are happening later. But I really like it as a content category because when we talk about value, people want more value than just that you paid to be in front of them, right? And usually that
Hmm.
value comes in the form of either education or entertainment. I would put this in the education category because most people don't know that they can turn 14 days into 45 days. And the people that will speak to I think there's a content funnel to put people into, and I know Stuart loves funnels, so he's going to get really excited that I said it. But there's a way to take that and find who's interested without spending a ton of money, and then helping leverage that into visitation over time through content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
I
other,
agree. And I was just
go
saying
ahead,
what
Caleb.
inspired this for me was actually the 18 Summers campaign. I thought they are using the most precious resource that we have as humans, time. They're tapping into a fundamentally human emotion of, wanting to be with your family, and that they're not saying they're stating a fact. You have 18 summers to enjoy with your family, but at the same time, on this side, it's hey, here's an opportunity for you to have more time to enjoy. So it is, in my opinion, what you're selling here is the concept of time. And oh, by the way, the CTA has come visit us. And I think any content around that would be good. And I don't think it should. By the way, I should probably make this clear. I don't think that there should be like a big paid media push. I do agree, Stuart. I think fundamentally this is an organic push. Maybe see if you want to put dollars behind it or how you want to spin it from there once you see how it performs. But at the end of the day, I think time being the most precious resource that we have as humans and that emotional connectivity that you can make with it in your destination is always a good play whenever you're marketing a destination.
Mhm. And I think there's opportunities through programming and through itinerary building to sort of capitalize on this and go actually find the audience that you're looking for. Because I would imagine there's there's subreddits, there's articles like this where there's comment opportunities. There's probably communities that exist that live to do the life hack kind of stuff or the optimizing the life kind of stuff. And so like finding out where those communities are and then sort of bringing yourself into those conversations in an organic, natural way, without being too
Hmm.
salesy or too obvious about it. I think there's probably an opportunity there. It also makes me think about, okay, regardless of the sort of this specific idea of hacking your PTO, I think there probably is going to be a trend. We're seeing the data suggest that the concept of a family taking a 1 2 week vacation a year in the middle of summer is beginning to be displaced by this concept of taking micro vacations throughout the year, right? That seems to be a trend, especially for younger generations. And so I think that's got to shift how we think about promotion and how we think about programming in general, and how can we capitalize, especially in the off season, to get people to come to our destination. And it sort of reminds me of well, this is a very early episode. We talked about Greenville, South Carolina, that did their Home Alone campaign, where they sort of offered an experience for people where they could ride in a limo with a pizza and have ice cream and do all this stuff. And it was very wrapped in this concept of nostalgia of the movie Home Alone. They sold out, right? But they're creating a unique experience that's like not at a traditional time of year for their destination. So part of me wonders if, the DMO role moving forward is becoming more of a curator of experiences, either directly or indirectly. And we talked a little bit recently with Christian Mingle about that, where he was sort of pontificating around should the DMO um, create like tours and stuff like that in the destination. And I don't think that's necessarily the role of the DMO, but maybe working with our partners to create curated experiences is a part of how we can drive demand. And then I'll let you jump in a sec. But the final thing I'll say is we've seen this in our own market, and we take no credit for this because it wasn't us at all. But Conway, which is a small town about 30 minutes from Myrtle Beach, it's inland. It's sort of the town you go through on the way to Myrtle Beach. Isn't hasn't ever really been a destination in and of itself. They tried for years to sort of be a little cute holiday town around Christmas and couldn't really get above the noise. Like it was always a lot of other folks competing for attention. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, someone at the city actually said, we're going to own Halloween instead. And so they started kind of small. The city folks started building little experiences around Halloween themed haunted experiences in and around their town hall. And then they gradually expanded it down the high street. And then they got to a point after 3 or 4 years where they actually renamed the town for the month of October to the town of Halloween. to get the earned media. And now it's like a fully integrated, full experience across the entire community where all the businesses are in it on it. The number of experiences, the trails that you can do, the haunted houses have created so much gravity that they had 250,000 people go through their experiences in the month of October last year. And this is a town of like 20,000 people, so it's now the place everyone from Myrtle Beach and everyone that's visiting Myrtle Beach goes during October. And they've just created this organically with not a lot of investment and not a lot of advertising, but they've created the experience that's created the phenomenal demand. And it's getting bigger and bigger every year.
That's how it starts, right? Like you try
Hmm.
something small and you see if it works, and if it works, you double down, and maybe it gets a little bigger and a little bigger, and before you know it, you've renamed your town in the month of October to
Hmm.
Halloween. I think that's such a great example of being creative and punching above your weight class. And I think the from a PTO hacking perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunities similar to what Conway did, where you could test the idea. Does this resonate with people? Do we get people to
Hmm.
come down here as a result of our efforts? And if we do, how do we double down next year? Again, if we're using Myrtle Beach as the example, does Myrtle Beach, if they got a lot of additional visitation from some content that they put out this year, do they have just an annual calendar that they've completely doubled down on for next year so that all the PTO hackers know that this is the safe haven for PTO hackers? I don't know. I think
Yeah.
these ideas, and again, I don't want to get so narrowed in. I think we need to zoom out a little bit. I don't want to get so narrowed in on the PTO hacking idea. I think it's insights like this that we need to test and dip our toe into and maybe create a small experience or some content around it or whatever. Test it and then double down and double down and double down, because Stuart, you've really changed my paradigm on this show when you said that the one thing destinations are going to be able to control is experiences. And,
Hmm.
the differentiator is an experience you can't get anywhere else. And so, if you, on these types of insights, can create experiences that are branded specifically to that destination, like Conway did, I think that's the real opportunity for differentiation for a lot of these destinations that are struggling to find it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Adam, you and I talked about this on our pod or on the podcast we did on Give Me Some Good News, and I've, niches get riches, right? Like if you're trying to compete, Conway's a good example. Conway is not going to compete with Myrtle Beach. Like that's just not going to happen. They're two different comp sets, they're two different cities. Um, and I think what they've done with Halloween is finding a niche and really leaning into it and making that their thing. And so, yeah, to your point, Adam, like it is a good idea to just kind of zoom out here and think about how are we embracing what makes us unique, or how are we finding a thing and using that to generate demand. And I think that's a part of the bigger conversation. And Stuart, to your point a little earlier, you were talking about how demand is shifting from like this 1 or 2 week vacation in one destination to these little like smaller destinations throughout the year. Is micro-seasonality a new battleground that we need to start really testing? Do we need to really start diving into our data? And if there is this shift, again, how do we use that data to create content that's relevant to an audience that is spending money in destination, or a potential audience that could be spending more money in destination? So, I think again, this idea of, and I know we've talked about this before, Adam, you and I, and in general, I have this conversation, but the idea of being a pretty beach, or being a pretty mountain town, or being anywhere USA is dead. And at the end of the day, we need to find what makes us unique, or to develop something that's going to make us unique to bring in that demand, and to grow our tourism economies throughout the town that we serve.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways I look at that, right? Because what Conway's done is, and it took him a while. It took him like 4 years to get traction and become a quote unquote overnight success. The first 3 or 4 years probably weren't that successful, but they kept at it. So they had a vision and they had the stick-to-itiveness to actually see that through, and they had that North Star that guided them. I think a lot of people would have probably given up in year 1 or 2 when folks didn't show up, right? So I think that's one thing. We got to start thinking longer term and be committed to what we're doing. But I also think we don't necessarily have to be one dimensional. Like what Conway's doing is interesting, is they're parlaying the success in Halloween to now go revisit what they originally tried, which was Christmas. And now they're trying to position themselves as the holiday town to come and visit for every major holiday, whether that be Halloween, whether that be Valentine's Day, or whether that be Christmas. And now they're getting a lot more traction with the other holidays because they've earned the right and they've gotten permission to do that because of the success they had on that one thing. So I think you always need to be thinking about how do you leverage that one success into others. But I also think we're in a world where there's so much more fragmentation of the consumer and their expectations and their interests now. So I don't think you can, Conway's unique because it wasn't known as a tourist destination. But if you're already a tourist destination, it'll be really hard to lean into that one shtick. Um, you got to probably do five or six or seven or 20 shticks at the same time
Mhm.
to multiple audiences, which that's when it gets diluted and that's
Well,
when it becomes a challenge. Because what Conway did could be emulated by a lot of places, but it would be done like half-assed, right? It wouldn't be nearly as compelling and then it wouldn't work. And so you sort of risk losing the battle by not fully committing.
but that's where you really have to have a solid understanding of your brand, right? Because
Mhm.
Mm.
there are experiences that you're going to try to create if you go this route that really aren't on brand and aren't worth trying to create. I think the reason Conway was able to make this successful, like you mentioned, Stuart, there's the focus aspect, but they also made it a part of their overarching brand. And if I was going to create multiple experiences throughout a year or something like that, that's great, but it's got to match the brand so that they can all tie together. There's got to be a glue that ties them together in some way, shape, or form. And so I think you're right. I think the way this spins out of control is just creating random experiences. You've got the goth event one weekend, and then you've got the, princess parties the next weekend. Like you got to figure out how to make sure that everything stays on brand. Stuart, I know you've been to a lot of princess parties. Tell me a little bit about how that fits. Okay, I'll wrap that up. That was my best. Give you a hard time
I was going to
from
actually
that.
make a joke about that being your social calendar, like the goth party one week, the princess party the next. So you beat me to the punch.
No, I love it. But again, I think when we look at a destination as a whole and we look at our audience as a whole, we want to make sure that we're serving both. And any opportunity to drive that demand, whether it be a specific campaign, whether it be something like this golden opportunity with PTO hacking, or whether it be, some event that you want like your destination to be known for, I think is key. And Adam, you bring up a good point. Like you have to know your brand, and your brand is not your logo. And so I think really diving into your brand and being comfortable with that and saying yes to things that make sense and saying no to things that don't, is really going to be key.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think the way I try to think about that when people are trying to like, if you try to articulate what is the brand in this context specifically, I try to articulate it as like if it was a person, what's the personality? And if we're
Yep.
trying to see would they go to that event or not, then that's sort of your litmus test as to whether it's a good fit or not.
Yeah.
Personification of the brand is often a useful rubric there.
And I also think brand is kind of like your character. Like brand is the thing that people say about you when you're not in the room. And so how do you leverage that and be tell it in an authentic way is really key.
Totally good. Well, this is a great conversation, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully, we're giving some folks some ideas today. But Caleb, I know we've gotten in trouble on the show before for letting people do announcements, but I really don't care. It's not like our sponsors are gonna boycott us because we don't have any. But um, you just made another change, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Want to share a little
Um,
bit about where you're at now?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I've been in this industry now my entire career, and one of the things that really sticks out to me is I have this passion for being a destination problem solver. And so I've made a shift here to really kind of step into a role that allows me to do that at a broader scale. So, I'll be stepping into a new role with Datafy, actually leading their growth strategy for the East Coast. Kind of teeing up our conversation today, how do we use the most accurate data set that we can find to actually create campaigns that are relevant to that audience. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm interested to kind of carry that torch and to keep helping destinations in any way that I can.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats. That's exciting. How's the new baby?
She's great. She's at the time of recording 2.5 weeks old, and believe it or not, she likes sleeping. So I'm gonna count my blessings there.
For
I do
now.
not take yeah
Yeah.
for now. All right, and then the
Yeah.
regression comes and we'll see. So, but yeah, it's been a great time.
And how's your other little monkey dealing with the new one coming along?
He loves it. He is Mr. Big Brother. He loves hugging her. He says, "Hey, that's Sissy." And I mean, it's y'all, my heart is just melted. It is just a puddle on the ground at this point.
That's
Life is
awesome,
good,
man.
y'all. Life is good.
Congrats. I'm on the other end of that. I got a senior who's about to graduate high school, so I'm about cusping on empty nesting. Although someone recently told me, don't think about it as empty nesting, think about it as bird launching. You're sending them out into the world. So I
That's
kind of
it,
like that.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good luck. It'll be a fun journey. Well, Caleb, if someone wants to get a hold of you, find you, learn more about your new gig, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn, and then obviously you can listen into some of these conversations on Give Me Some Good News, our podcast. But another thing that I do that's kind of off to the side is I have a Substack called Caleb Talks Tourism. So you can also find me on Substack if you want to hear my thoughts on the tourism economy. So find me there, and I'm always happy to chat.
Awesome. And you'll find him grinning at any conference near you because he's always grinning from ear to ear when I see him.
Yeah. I'll come up and give anyone a hug. So feel free to come say hi, and I'm always happy to chat.
Nice. And Adam, what about you, sir?
Uh, well, first of all, I just want to call back to
No, I'm
Caleb's
asking if you're
show.
willing to give anyone a hug. That was the question.
You should have never introduced me to Claude Code, Stuart. So I am more than willing to give certain people a hug.
Okay.
It's fair.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
when you give away your 100th hug, maybe it can be me. Just like when I go on his 100th episode.
This guy. You know what, Stuart? You can be my 100th hug. I'm going to
Okay.
allow it. Yep.
All right, go on. I dream of the day. Where can they find you, Adam?
So I wanted to tell Caleb, congrats on the new show. Congrats on the new gig. I'm excited to see as you
Not the
continue
new
to.
baby?
Well, of course I'm happy for the new baby. You
Okay.
know,
It's
really excited.
just weird.
You
Someone had a baby 2.5 weeks
see,
ago and you don't
yeah.
congratulate them for it. That's just a
Well,
bit
but you
weird,
got to
man.
understand, Stuart. For me, it's old news because we talked about it on the
Talked about
previous
it.
conversation. I know this is a first for
That's
you,
true.
right? And I
He's already
understand that.
texted me about it. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I can appreciate that you do feel left out. So I want you to be able to hear me say to Caleb for the second time, I'm really excited for you as a
Nice,
new
touche.
dad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Touche. That's good.
But yeah, I actually love the new show format. I think the industry needs some good news, and so I'm glad you're doing that. You can find me, Adam at thebrandrevolt.com. You can find me on LinkedIn or, of course, on Tourism IQ.
Awesome. You can find me at Stuart.Butler at visitmodelbeach.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And if you go to Spotify, you'll usually find Caleb lurking there and leaving a comment. So feel free
That is very
to
true.
chime in there as well. He likes to comment on our Hey Caleb, did you ever weigh in on the temporary jingle that Adam brought, the English rap song?
Yeah, so I'm still catching up on my episodes from paternity leave, but those are the next two. Or is it one or two
Okay.
episodes where we did it? So
It's the
I will
Jason
have an
Hollick
opinion.
episode.
But
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I will tell you right now that the
Hmm.
Stu's News jingle is an industry institution. So if you change it, I will not be happy. And you will hear about it in the
Mate,
comments.
so you think that the jingle gets inducted into the DMO Hall of Fame one day? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, a hundred
Okay.
percent. I will vote for it.
That's amazing. Oh, guys, this is awesome. Thank you, Caleb. Great having you back on the show. I think three are tied for the most, maybe with Amir, or I'm not sure. There's a couple have been on three peats now, so we'll maybe get you on again at some point, and you might be able to get the lead. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Appreciate our destination a great deal. Until next time, this has been Destination Discourse.
Thanks, everybody.